Hello, welcome to, it's a Friday afternoon here in Chicago, Illinois. We are doing a live stream today of our rewind from Adobe Summit, the big digital experience marketing conference. My name is Fred Faulkner. Thank you for joining today. Today, I have a cast and crew from ICF Next. We're going to talk about our thoughts and experience at Adobe Summit, what we liked, what we didn't, what we are excited about moving forward. I have a wonderful set of teammates with me that I'm going to introduce here, and we're going to get started. So bringing them all up onto the stage, we have Ralph Winterpock, who's a director of technology. We have Dan Knopf, who's our CTO. We got Pat McLaughlin, another director of technology for us. We have Michael Paul, who's our director of experience and design. We have Tad Reeves, an AEM architect, and Gordon Tam, who leads our omnichannel and technology practice. Hey, everyone. How are you all doing today?
Good. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday indeed, and happy Summit.
That's right. We all exhausted from 2.5 days, really 2 days of just jam-packed, lots of content, lots of live streaming, lots of brain dates. We could get into all that type of stuff. But are y'all tired yet from 2 big packed days of stuff?
It was a lot of screen time, Fred.
A lot of screen time.
Yep.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So I want to spend some time today just kind of chatting with getting your opinions and thoughts. Summit, second year virtual. First year was a quick turnaround. There's a lot of, news information on how Adobe basically pulled the trigger and turned a live event that usually has 20-some thousand attendees live and in Las Vegas into a virtual event. This is year 2 of the virtual event, clearly planned for virtual this year. So a lot of the stuff ended up being, I think, a little smoother than last year as far as the event is concerned. But certainly an experience in and of itself from a virtual event. I've attended several virtual events of the year. I think this probably is one of the best ones I've seen. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on that too. But we'll get to that in a minute. To start things off, I'm going to kind of go around the room. We can answer some of these types of things, but I want to learn and hear from you guys. What did you guys think of the product announcements? It's usually day one. They kick it off. It's the fire hose. We're all drinking from the Kool-Aid. Dan, I'm going to start with you. Favorite keynote announcement or product announcement that you heard?
I did enjoy the announcement section of the keynote, like right out of the gate. They came and hit us with a bunch of Experience Cloud optimizations. The thing that I think is most interesting is the enhancements to the native applications on Adobe Experience Platform. Journey Optimizer is the cool new thing. It looks like it's going to be a lot of time saving and value adding for marketers and our customers. And it represents the future of where AEP is going as a platform. So that's the one I'm most interested in.
Interesting. Yeah, I like Journey Optimizer. That looks like it's going to be fun. I'm going to ask Tad. You're our AEM architect, also AEM as a cloud service expert. What are your thoughts from the product announcements?
Well, in terms of sessions, I mean, the keynote was also fabulous, and I loved how the pace of it, and I love the color from the other folks that they brought in. But in terms of the other general sessions, the number of different ways in which they had rolled out AEM as a cloud service tooling is to me was a bigger deal than I think a lot of people realize. Adobe's never put so much effort into trying to enable partners to be able to be successful in their migrations and upgrades and things like that. There's never been this level of tooling, this amount of muscle that's been put into things like that. So I guess that's what got me the most excited.
Cool. Hey, Raph, what about you?
I would
keynotes.
Yeah, I would definitely second what Tad was just saying about having the tools there for having customers moving over to AEM as a cloud service. I thought that was pretty exciting. Got to take a look at some of the sessions there. As far as some of the new products as well, I was seeing that there was a lot of integrations between the different cloud services, which seemed to be a little bit tighter too. And for instance, even calling Magento Commerce now. So just even some of the name changes and some of the integrations there, I was pretty excited about. I thought that was great.
Nice. Michael, thoughts from a front end experience guy?
I jump right off of what Ralph was just talking about. I think the integrations are what's really exciting. The Adobe Experience tool set, the cloud tools, the platform, it has felt like kind of a buffet of tools that clients can or or marketers or product owners can choose from in building a solution. But even though they all kind of exist in the same ecosystem, it's always felt like, there's some integration to get them to work, and just taking a year to focus on getting all these tools to work together better in intuitive ways will create efficiencies in building products and also running products. There seemed to be a real focus across the board on really thinking about how these tools get used and how they can be more useful, whether it's integrations, whether it's reducing the time it takes to implement them, or just being really thoughtful about what those products use. In the sneaks, there was a theme of thinking about how marketers use the products, what their challenges are, and how the new tools solve them. I know sneaks are things on the horizon, but that just really seemed to be the theme of the whole conference to me.
Very true. All right, Gordon, you got anything you want to add into the mix before we jump into something new?
No, I think +1 on the journey optimizer piece. I think very slick tool from what I could see, and I think that actually goes to just seeing that Adobe's taken the feedback from previous conferences of just more showing, less telling, and I think they've taken that to heart. You see it in a lot of their production and their sessions of just equal parts of telling you what the new innovations are, but also kind of just very much showing you in live demos and on the screen. So I really appreciated that.
Very true. All right, Pat, you're the last one in the group, so let's get your 2 cents. What are you thinking? What was that?
I thought you were going to say
no, I'm not going to forget about you.
Kind of echoing what everyone said. I really enjoyed the focus on not just the consumer, but the marketers using the systems. The tighter integrations with commerce and AEM is very exciting. As well as I took in a few Workfront Workfront sessions where they're integrating with the DAM and managing the business process, which I think is, again, focusing more on the users of the system as much as the consumers is a great step forward as they're kind of purchasing these products and integrating them into the ecosystem.
I think you hit on the big key theme that I took away from the conference, and I tweeted this out, that it really felt like the big themes, if I took out the actual titles of the sessions and the tracks themselves, it was about data, AI, and how Sensei is just continues to get injected with more and more pieces of information and make lives. And this comes to the third point, which is, you all mentioned it, marketers' efficiency, right? Adobe and every other big experience platform that's out there just acquires, and they have to stitch all this stuff together. And anyone from Forrester or Gartner or IDC is going to tell you that they've all made these purchases, but they all have to make the integrations happen. And not all the technology is the same. We know the Magento is like PHP based, it's not Java based like everything else. I mean, technologies can still work together through APIs and other stuff, but how do you make it easy for the marketer? And that seemed to be a real big theme. You all hit on it as far as that's concerned, but I think Adobe's maturity level is finally hitting its stride where marketers can now do their jobs easier. And in a world where marketers are being asked to do more with less, I think Adobe had no choice. They have to make these tools and solutions work together, whether you're using one or multiple of their solutions in your environment, in your ecosystem. So I'm excited to see how that continues to evolve. And it's not just about skinning a user interface and keeping logins the same. It's really about that workflow process and to making marketers' jobs easier. And I'm really excited to see where Sensei is coming in. And so, Michael, you talked about sneaks. Sneaks is always one of those fun things. Dan Levy was there as the comedic approach to it all. I think he did a great job. I hope there's a bunch of GIFs that got created from his reactions because I think they are pretty universal how he looked at technology. I'll kick off with kind of one of my favorite sneaks is really, I love that there's two that I loved. One, the Workfront reorganize or reshuffle my schedule. One was, why someone hasn't thought about that, like Microsoft, why haven't you thought about that to reorganize my life and Outlook? That was a brilliant one. But the one that going back to AI, that whole content writing and optimization one, the Catchy Content, I think is what it was called. That, from a marketer's perspective, I was like, yes, finally something that isn't just about putting content in, but it will analyze and give me some thought around what's actually going to work with my customers based on other sentiment and actions that have been taken on a page. So those are my two things that are really exciting. who wants to jump in as far as which ones you thought?
You know, the daily shuffle is a cool thing. You said why haven't people thought about it before? I've actually sat in investor presentations where people are pitching this idea. Seems like an idea as old as time, but nobody's really figured it out. You know, I wish the best luck to Adobe and Workfront. I think they've had an actual chance of cracking this nut. But how cool would that be if that actually can work, right? The work part of doing our jobs is getting more and more these days, and anything Adobe can do to take that off our plates, huge appreciation for that.
Totally agree.
The feature, there were a couple of features in that product or that project, I know it's not a product yet, that weren't just reshuffling your calendar. And if that's the stretch goal, if they can't reshuffle my calendar, but they can do the other thing where I ask someone else to take a meeting and then I get an update about how the meeting went, without having to go ask for for someone's notes or something. That to me was a killer feature. I'll take that if I get nothing else. That was a cool feature.
For sure. Anyone else talk about on the daily shuffle, or was there another? Who else had a different one that jumped out that you thought was cool?
I wanted to second your catchy content sneak too. I thought that one was really interesting because from a marketing perspective, you can get a lot more affinities that are now have some visibility, right? So you can have images that are uploaded, and you can look at things like what colors make sense for something like a campaign, what colors work better, what are the different palettes that you have, having tone, all those different attributes I think are going to make quite a difference in the marketer's world. I thought that was really neat.
If they can find a way that gets married into like a company's brand style guide and some of the other kind of digital policy about it, like we use words certain ways and phrases certain ways, that it can just be a super powerful tool. And when you think about AEM and what it offers as far as, its content management, and they're pushing headless, which I want to get into in a second. And, there's a lot of things that go into the system, but then get output in so many different channels and so many different ways that if they can still find a way that adhere to brand standards, adhere to guidelines, still be able to pull in AI to make the content more intelligent as a content authoring perspective, and then deliver personalization, output it through, headless into different channels and make that all still work. That's a powerful combination for anybody in any organization, for sure.
There was another in the sneak. They had that visual application builder tool, and the name of the project escapes me. But they basically were laying out cloud applications in XD. And
there's a Firefly app.
That was incredible.
Firefly.
Yeah, I think it was an app builder that sat on top of Firefly and gave you a GUI basically in XD to build applications. That kind of thing's been the dream on the web to, WYSIWYGs that can do more than just lay out text forever. And if they're able to deliver on, part of what was in that demo, it'll be a great feature of the platform. And taking all of the tying together all these products that we saw here and then saying, you can actually just use XD to deliver cloud apps to your users. That one I wanted to spend. That was the demo that and credit to the person giving the demo too. The demo didn't go perfectly and he went right through it. And I think we've all had that experience of showing what's in the lab and it doesn't go perfectly. And you say, no, but this is what we're working on and this is what we wanted to do. And I'd love to check in on that product in 6 months and see where they're at.
I still think it's kind of funny because they had to replicate a faux pas in a virtual setting because that's all pre-recorded. They could have easily just said like, nope, we're going to go do it again. That's not a big deal. But they're like, nope, we're going to keep a fake.
You're saying that was a contrived goof.
Yeah. For sure. Anyone else have a sneak that they really liked that they hope makes it into product GA at some point? I can't even remember.
I want to second that XD demo, and again that product escapes me. The name of it escapes me as well, but because that was the second demo that I had seen of really interesting functionality where you got this crossover from XD back into the main more technical products, because there's a demo of the new AM templates, site templates. It's kind of like the closest thing to WordPress themes that have really come into the AM world, where you can now just go and basically mock out your site in XD and have that immediately go into basically just be the start of your entire AM site. Just all of a sudden it's laid out and ready to rock, and you didn't have to. You had to write almost no code to get to at least square zero, where that sort of a thing, that sort of a jump start on an AEM project has always been tough, especially for somebody who's net new to AEM.
For sure. So this leads into something that I've been thinking about, and I've seen Adobe start to pivot in this, and some of it's very buzzword market lingo, but I'm interested to hear your guys' take, and I'm going to start with you, Gordon, on this, so heads up. Tad, you mentioned it, like the low code, right? No code, low code, no code stuff. That Forrester recently put out a wave that Adobe and a bunch of other content management and experience management systems were in. It was called the Agile Content Management System. I think everyone is trying to figure out how to address marketers' needs without having to work with developers as intently to get things out the door. So to the point of, let's mock something up, get it in XD, start it as a foundation. It's not a lot of coding that's required to make that happen, but it's giving people an acceleration to making that work. So Gordon, to you, as kind of looking at omni-channel delivery, what's your thought on how Adobe's adaptation, what I'm going to call a low code, no code start set of solutions, is that like a necessity they needed to move towards, or is it really just reframing what is the marketing lingo by saying, like, we're going to move towards this anyways? It's just actually applying a low code, no code term to what we're already executing in practice.
No, I think strategically, it's actually a shift in the right direction, right? It's moving the value of kind of where we're spending time, and money and effort away from things that are repeatable, things that, again, for lack of a better word, low value, right? Like where, folks like our teams, our expertise comes in is around how do we, integrate these technologies with other backend systems, other pieces of functionality that are more novel, that are going to get you more value, and taking this low code approach helps gets us there faster, right? Gets us out of the kind of slog of starting up projects, and really, again, if those things are repeatable and low value, then let's stop doing them and get to kind of the more interesting stuff. So I think I definitely think it is a shift, and it's a shift in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. Headless, fun. Let's play Buzzword Bingo. What buzzwords did we hear the most at Adobe Summit? I'll start. Headless. Pat, what one did you hear the most that made you chuckle?
Headless, I guess. I kind of want to comment on that because during the innovation section, or one for the cloud, AIM as a cloud service, they really featured the content fragment editor. And that is a step away from the in-experience editing that's traditionally kind of powered AM. And I really like that they're focusing on data, and that's where you're going to be able to spread that out to consume it with a lot of different applications. So for that to be built into the AIM as a cloud service sites system is pretty awesome. And so that was a buzzword being thrown around, but I think they've kind of backed it up this time, and it's part of the product now.
Yep. Who else wants to add?
Can I offer you a cookie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that word. I heard a lot about cookies. I think there's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, some FUD going around about the cookie changes that are coming our way. But I think Adobe really wanted to lay down the message to say, hey, there is a path forward with us. Don't worry about the cookieless future. So I heard a lot about cookies.
Cookies and cookieless. That is for sure. Taking my cookies
away. The cookieless future. I think I heard that exact phrase. Yeah, probably 50 times.
Yep. There's definitely a lot coming, and they've definitely some integrated with some other partners that have identity, solutions that are out there. And certainly with iOS 14.4, is that where it was? I think that dropped on Monday of this week, the 26th. So that privacy future from Apple's world is real, and it is here. So it'll be very interesting to see now the beginning of the steamroll, the kind of snowball is going to start to come around, because now everyone's going to have it on the brain, because they're going to start getting those notifications. Yeah. Please opt in to everything you're doing on your Apple device on where you want your cookies to and to not work. That is a real thing for marketers, for sure. So appropriately so, Adobe's addressing it. I will say, I was at Adobe's Experience Maker event in Chicago 2 years ago, and they started talking about this. So that runway has been there for a while, and they've been thinking about this for a while. This isn't just about Summit, and they just randomly started thinking about it because everyone's starting to get in the news. This is something they've been thinking about for a long time, for sure. What else? Buzzword made you think like, if I hear this more time in a session title or hear about it?
Yeah, there were a couple that related to the headless one. And I think we've heard these before, but they basically had headless, hybrid, and head-on, right? So those are sort of the different ways that you can implement Adobe Experience Manager. The headless one was really intriguing too, because they have this this way of using the content fragments and having a model editor, so you can really build out this scaffolding. You can really build out this very structured data and have that delivered in various channels, right? So that was sort of the idea there. I thought that was really interesting to see that, where you can deliver the AEM content in such a way where front-end technology can be way ahead of what they're doing with the head-on approach too, right? So I thought that was a pretty intriguing way that they presented that too. Again, just with some of those buzzwords. And hybrid, where you can have content that's authored in AEM, but then delivered in multiple ways there as well. And then, of course, the traditional head-on approach, which is where you're using things like the core components and sort of the new standard now with the components that they're building in AEM.
Yep, I saw lots of demos with Weekend. I don't know about you guys. Lots of demos with Weekend site that showed up for sure. Let's talk about Summit in general. We weren't in Vegas. We weren't at a physical location. There's some things that you get the benefit of roaming around hallways and running into past colleagues and current colleagues and hitting up to, we'll say just places to have, a bite to eat and you have a drink, whether you're on the tables and the floor, whatever type of stuff, or just being around others, really smart people. The physical experience certainly missing. You can't replicate that online, but they did their best with really good content. Some of it's canned. You can tell the professionalism with it. I do miss being in the big expo hall where like you're just seeing massive amounts of screens and the production value that just kind of gets you excited when you're drinking the Kool-Aid when you go to these events. But given that it was virtual, what's some of your thoughts? Like, did you enjoy the application they're using? Did they enjoy that the presentations were canned and they were having the presenters like interact with you in the chat window? Give me some of your thoughts on where you thought the actual digital virtual experience. Did it work? Did it not work? Have you been?
I'll jump in here, Fred. I think Adobe did a great job. As great as they can with a completely virtual remote type of approach here. They had a lot of support behind the scenes. Fred, I know you and I were in at least one session where we had a dedicated support person making sure that everything went smoothly behind the scenes. And I think they did that for all the partners, all the customers that presented. And I think they did a good job. I miss rubbing elbows at the happy hours. I don't know if you had to bring your own happy hour or something here, but I think that extra element is missing. And I hope that the future is maybe something hybrid where we do get back to face-to-face. We do get to have those rubbing elbows together, but maybe the content gets presented similar. So I think they did a great job with what they had. Right. And I think all the partners out there, the other comment I wanted to make here is that, you don't have the trapped audience of the expo hall, right? You have to really hustle, get out there to get those brain dates. You got to market them. You got to draw customers in with something compelling. And I think that just actually makes us, the partner network, all of us stronger by trying harder out there. So I think that's actually an unintended positive consequence.
Yeah, for sure. Ted, what do you think of the actual virtual event?
So I had a couple thoughts about the virtual event. I mean, number one, I think that the production value was a lot better this year than last year. I definitely appreciated that. I think there's a couple ways that they could show some improvement for next year too. One of the things that is nice about watching a live kind of event webinar style is where if you can ask a question and then the person who's delivering the presentation can actually maybe even answer your question live, as opposed to it just getting lost in a scrolling chat window or something like that, which is one of the other AM conferences I went to. They could have the guys that could answer that kind of stuff live. But at least having chat that they had a number of engineering resources, like in a lot of the technical presentations I was on, they had a number of engineering resources that were on hand to go and answer things. A couple of brain dates I was on, I would host something. It was all going to be just regular old folks, but then Adobe went and sent in an employee or two to be able to answer questions as well. So at least you felt like you were still at least part of an event that was happening, and you at least had a lot of real life people that you could ask questions of and so forth. So it definitely was a big improvement over last year, and it's not quite the real life show, but it's a great step in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Anyone else want to add anything they thought was really interesting or that you found innovative that you hadn't seen anywhere else?
I enjoyed the brain dates a lot. I had one that I chaired and or facilitated, and then participated in a couple of other ones. And I wasn't sure what to expect. I hadn't done anything like that before, and I was really impressed with the format of it. Aside from being really good conversations, which was the primary goal of them, and I think they achieved that. I think that they did a good job of bringing some of the reason you go to conferences, to learn, to network, and also just to get excited. I always love coming back from a conference excited to share with my coworkers, the things I learned in those conversations and the connections I made in those hallway conversations, and new ways of thinking, or aside from just new products, new ways of putting the products together and delivering for clients. That's what I really love about attending conferences, and with online events over this past year have been missing. And I thought the brain dates surprised me by doing something towards delivering some of that. I came away from the conversations kind of excited about some new ideas, and have already been sharing with coworkers who didn't participate in them some new ways of thinking. So
that's awesome. Yeah, brain dates were new. They didn't have those last year. Certainly the ability to us to, not just create topics on, Adobe's platform, but topics about anything. I hosted a brain date on the future of digital experiences, and we just kind of riffed on where we thought, engagement's going to be taking place outside of maybe traditional channels. There's, social audio has been picking up with, applications like Clubhouse and Twitter and Facebook and Reddit are all kind of jumping into the game here. And Spotify just bought a platform called Locker Room. They're going to relaunch as something to kind of engage that whole new social audio, virtual conference calls, I guess, with just people want to drop in and talk about stuff. Basically this without the video component. So, but it's been getting a lot of attention, but we had, it was a really good conversation, and it had nothing to do really with Adobe stuff whatsoever, but it got your brain thinking about what's the future hold. So with that, let me ask you guys, as you look at the Adobe Experience platform, what gets you excited about what the future holds? We've seen the announcements. We hope some of the sneak stuff makes it in. They say roughly 60% makes it in some product level thing moving forward. What is going to get you excited between now and 2022's Adobe Summit with what we have now in our tools and our arsenal of Adobe Experience Cloud stuff to work with? What makes you most excited we get to work with clients on? I'm going to start with you, Raf. How about that?
Yeah, sure. So there's a couple of things. One of the things that I remember from the sneaks too, which I thought was pretty interesting, was the savvy search, right? So they're really having tighter integrations between their different cloud systems, where when you do a search for something, it will search in things like analytics, or it will search in Campaign, or it'll search in whatever other marketing tools that are used. So I thought that was really neat. I'm really curious to see how we can incorporate that into some of the work that we do. The other thing too, just to go back to some of the other things that we were talking about with the brain dates, it was really interesting to hear kind of where people are at with their sort of evolution and working with something like AM assets. So I was really interested to see how we can apply some of the new tools that they have. So something that they call the Assets Essentials. It covers a number of different use cases. How can we work with our clients and partners to implement something like that? I thought that was pretty interesting, and I'm seeing that could be done probably within the next year. I think that'd be great.
Fair. Assets Essentials, essentially what it sounds like, right? Just the essential, what you need. I didn't dive into that one specifically about where they reformatted some stuff, but it sounds like that's gonna be exciting. Gordon, omnichannel, looking at the biggest part of the practice, in general, how we look and work with clients, what's got you excited about this next year?
It's the data platform. It's the CDP that kind of underpins all the different experiences that we're talking about, getting away from, the pure play, just marketing, static sites, to more dynamic, data-driven. We're talking about the cookies. Everything's moving from third party to first party, so collecting actual, data from the customers and then using that to personalize and drive. I think the move towards CDP as an actual, it's becoming a real thing. You can start seeing, things in action. The journey optimizer, it's now kind of going from abstract to, hey, this is a concept, to a product with functionality that actually has go-to-market and use cases. So I think it's exciting to see that one evolve, and how it's gonna, architect and reimagine kind of how we fit the different pieces together. I think that'll be a very interesting thing in 2021.
Agreed. Tad, how about you?
I guess for me, the thing that's biggest for me this year is that, so at around this time last year, Adobe had just announced AEM as a cloud service. And I have to admit that there's a little bit of terror that went along with that, of like, okay, we're all being forced to one restricted platform or something like that. Now, a year into this, with the amount of work that Adobe's put into tooling of all kinds of various sorts of ways to migrate, ways to get your things modernized, screens, cloud service, forms, cloud service, assets, all these different things in the toolbox. It's turned into this really kind of golden age for somebody who's a solution integrator, because now there's just a million tools, and you just need to know how to use all the tools. And customers are definitely not in a place where they can say, oh, I can just add water and mix. They definitely need help, and we're in an ideal position to be able to go ahead and provide that help, which to me is extremely exciting for the coming year, because these tools are amazing and can provide a really resilient and amazing new experience for somebody with a marketing stack.
Agreed. Michael, how about you?
I mean, I'm really excited to work with Firefly and the tools that they've put in there for, basically API-ifying all of the different facets of the platform. We've talked about the theme being integrating all these different tools, and that's one point of integration where as a programmer, as a developer, we're going to be able to do a lot quickly for users. But I'd like to give you two answers. That's my one, that's my specific. I can't wait to do exciting things with that tool. But in general, the theme, another theme that I picked up on was unifying strategically around how to use the platform for teams. I care a lot about content workflows and how we get from the plans of a product, the comps of a product, the experience design of a product, to the workflows that site owners and site authors have to deliver on those plans and execute those. And there was a theme across Summit of, as we integrate these pieces, we really are being thoughtful about what those workflows are. The talk that someone already referenced, where they've just delivered some templates for XD that can bootstrap your design. That is not a groundbreaking technical delivery on the order of like Project Firefly or the journey mapping tool, but it is a sign that they're really thinking about how you can bring together the site authors, the product owners, who are at one end of a project, taking what gets built and running it and owning it, and the designers who are, figuring out what it's going to look like and bringing them together and turning that into a circle. We think about an agile workflow, creating that feedback loop and creating one team delivering and maintaining and building the product. And as somebody who's lucky enough to work with both teams on the experience side, building the vision, building the user experience, and also building out the workflows that content authors use to deliver it, enhance it, own it. I'm just really excited that Adobe sees the need to unify everyone's needs, get them all on the same team, get them on the same page, and make sure that everyone agrees on what that strategy is before they execute. That was a little less specific, but it's what I'm most excited about.
It's a great theme. I mean, the unification of the platform, and I think this goes back to the comment about maturity. Like, the platform is finally getting to a maturity level where you can focus on these user experiences. And as much as we as a company focus on user experiences for our clients and specifically for their customers using these tools, there's a whole other side, which is the marketers have to be able to use the tools. They're not using the tools. That's a wasted investment in an enterprise platform. So
exactly,
your point, having that integration, having that workflow, having be able to get content authors to think about the things they need to think about and not let the technology get in the way is going to be super important for Adobe and other DXPs to really get right, because that's when it comes to renewal time, the CIO or the CMO who's writing that check for the next 3 years isn't looking at their team going, why are we doing this? So it's an easier sale. Dan, you're the last one, and I'm going to wrap it up.
All right. Well, it's a +1 on the data story. Look, the question I think you asked was what gets me excited between now and next year, and I think the answer is if we can execute, we meaning the industry can execute on even some of these promises, we lurch forward our customers tremendously. the battleground of data is still real at a lot of customers, and understanding which system has which piece of information, who is going to own that behind the scenes. There's a lot of sort of organizational games and politics that go on that sometimes just get in the way of really getting a true 360 view of your customer in order to enact and enable a lot of the tools that Adobe brings. The things that were really exciting to me to see was, how seamless they are conveying, bringing those data sources together for real-time CDP. Right? I think you do that, you unlock things like the journey orchestration management. You unlock the ability to personalize. You really, really step forward. And as we all know, the world changed quite a bit in the last year. Digital transformation accelerated, and our digital data is just all over the place in all these different channels. So really bringing that together, if we really do that, that is exciting, and that's less time spent doing the work if you're a marketer and more time focusing on your customers. It's a huge win-win.
Yep, I agree. So my thought and takeaway is that data, for sure. I've always, you hear AI and ML, you hear AI and ML, you hear AI and ML, and it's like you see bits and pieces of it. Like last year, it was dynamic clipping of a video and how we can do dynamic cropping on photos, depending on what platform you're in. And you're starting to see Sensei really start to be a Sensei, and it's actually like got this whole dynamic element to it. I'm excited about seeing how Adobe continues to take all the knowledge and all the data and all the different things that they can do within all their entire ecosystem and start to apply it intelligently for marketers to really take advantage of AI and machine learning to deliver better experiences. And so, seeing, so that's one big theme. Like, I think seeing that really come into action and how, partners like us have to make sure we're up to speed on how we can train it correctly, how we can make sure that the tagging and other things that make that AI and make Sensei work as best as possible is going to be huge. And that's where you're seeing next best product offering. I mean, that's the intelligence that needs to come into play. And we play a big part of that as partners, but I love to see where that's going to come into the world. And then the second thing I think was really Adobe's mostly been known for the B2C stuff, and now seeing Marketo start to take a front seat, the B2B CDP come into play, and really start to think about how enterprises think about their customers, who their customers are, and bring the B2B world up, who's always been behind the times and always struggled to have the right MarTech stack to kind of work inside their world. Seeing Adobe pull in more of a B2B focus I think it's going to be really exciting to see where those customers can really start to take advantage of the next generation of products that they're pulling together. Those are probably the two big themes. The last thing I'll say is, and this is what I think ultimately gets me excited, because you're starting to see the clouds come together. So Raf, we were talking before, not on this, but in previous discussions around the new Creative Cloud integrations into the DAM. So I can start applying things like Lightroom, filters and other things that make, your content more on brand and save time and energy. And now you have Adobe Sign coming in with forms, and Adobe has these three clouds, and they're the only company that really can take you from product ideation, content ideation, creation, workflow management, and then execution, delivery, and optimization within their entire ecosystem. There is really no one else out there that can do it. They own that space. And that gets me really excited, because now you can see they started creating these three clouds, but now the clouds are starting to be, I don't want to call it a thunderstorm, but they're going to bring the rain, because it's going to just continue to bring in these clouds coming together. And you're going to see companies starting to be able to really take advantage of stuff they already own. Everyone already owns Acrobat. Everyone already owns a version of Creative Cloud. They're starting to get the Marketing Cloud and Experience Cloud in place. And now the maturity's getting there where they can really start to run. So kind of a weird analogy going in there, but they're going to bring it. And I think that's where you're going to see these clouds really start to converge, and we're going to see some really dynamic stuff happen, as clouds do when they converge in one space. So any last parting shots before we wrap this up? Nope. Silence is deafening. All right. Well, thanks, guys.
We're all exhausted, Fred. It was a long week.
A whole week of Adobe Summit. This is our Adobe Summit Rewind. Thanks again for joining. Thanks again, guys, for taking a little bit of time of your afternoon. And we will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks again. Take care.
Thank you.
Later.
Thank you.
Thanks. It was fun.